Okay. What's going on, everyone? We are back for another live edition of the Bleed Los Podcast Garnazada Postgame Show. The Dodgers are steam rolling through the playoffs with another win against the Brewers. We are 3-0 in the NLCS. Cody and I are here tonight to give you our reactions and break it all down for you. Producer Roger is behind the scenes at Dodger Stadium getting all the postgame content that you can check out later. Before we get into it all, we want to make sure to tell you about DodgersBeat.com. Stay up to date and in the know with all of the latest and most comprehensive coverage of the LA Dodgers. It is your one stop for articles, interviews, contests, merch, and more. Never miss a beat and check out DodgersBeat.com. Okay, Cody, first of all, what's up? And can you feel a sweep in the air?
Yeah, I mean, the stars are starting to align for this Dodgers team. Going up 3-0 in the series, that's such a stranglehold in a best of 7. Like MLB history, we've only seen one team ever come back from a 3-0 series deficit. So mathematically, statistically, this series is pretty much wrapped up. The Dodgers just have their choice of either winning tomorrow, the day after that, or one of the 2 games in Milwaukee if the Brewers ended up forcing that. I don't see that happening. I do think it does end at Dodger Stadium, should that be tomorrow or on the Saturday game. But yeah, things are looking really good for the Dodgers. They're looking really bad for the Brewers. And today was a pretty good complete game that we'll definitely get into. From the pitching, the bullpen looked good. They locked down the lead, and the offense, getting some hits off the Miz with his 103 mile per hour fastball. I mean, they came up clutch today, but overall, really good win. Way to put up a series 3-0. And now we're just counting down till tomorrow. I know you are, because you're going to be there.
Yes. I was just telling you got off the air, but for all our listeners, that it's always been like a bucket list of mine to go and see a series clinch game. So I'm gonna knock on wood. Don't want to jinx it. I'd be super happy if you still win on Saturday or anytime. But to imagine that again, we're going to the World Series or potentially could. And I'll be there to see it. I'll be so happy. So yay, let's get into all of it though. I want to just kind of start off at the top, because I was thinking going into this game of they're going to throw everything at us, even though they don't have a lot of pitching to throw at us, but they were going to try with Mizorowski, whatever they had to do to try to win this game. Do you think that the Brewers approach is like, this is a must win? We had to do it no matter what, all our hopes are lost.
Yeah, I think it was a must-win for the thing that I just mentioned earlier. Only one team has come back from a 3-0 series deficit, and that was the 2004 Boston Red Sox, who everybody knows about. Hasn't happened since. Every team that's been down 3-0, they've done their best, but they couldn't get it done. And even the Yankees last season in the Fall Classic, they went down 3-0 in the series, and they couldn't come back either. The Dodgers, they've just been pretty dominant. And then bringing in Mizorowski today, I was kind of for sure that they were going to go with him over Quintana, but Quintana spoke to the media the night prior. Usually that's an indicator that is going to be the starting pitcher that speaks to the media before a game. And it ended up not being him. It looks like they called an audible getting closer to game time, but to the Dodgers' credit, the way they structured their lineup with, going lefties and then 2 righties in there, they anticipated not having Ashby go long or Quintana coming in this game either. But even if Quintana did pitch instead of Mizorowski, they would have been prepared for that as well. But I tweeted out, we talked about it off air. I talked about it to everybody else that, it's in my group. But I said the Mizorowski guy was their last chance out of the bullpen, whether he was pitching 3, 4, 5, or 6 innings, whatever they wanted to do. He was their last option to kind of rebound for the Brewers and kind of silent the Dodger bats. And he did that for most of his start. Pat Murphy's issue is, and to kind of credit Dave Roberts, is that Dave Roberts has a really good read of everybody on this roster. That last inning from Mizorowski, his velocity was down like 2, 3, 4 miles per hour. Wasn't hitting 100, was only around 90, 99, 98. I know it's still fast, but it's almost good click below what we were seeing all day. And Will Smith bangs a single up the middle, and then the rest is history. Tommy Edman, adds to the lead there as well. And the Dodgers, clipped him for a run, got to the bullpen again from the Brewers, seeing Uribe for the 3rd straight game. You can only throw these guys out there so often against a group of hitters like the Dodgers before you start getting eat. And Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, the Brewers, I just feel like they had such a good amount of pitching in their bullpen entering October, and the Dodgers were very shy to go to their bullpen. But there is something to be said about overusing your bullpen. I think the usage of their pitching staff this series has been very weird. And Pat Murphy's kind of at the forefront of that decision. You know, he's the guy that goes into saying what guy comes in, who he's bringing in, pitching matchups. I don't know. I just feel like he's managed this series a little weird, and it's kind of gone in favor of the Dodgers. And we'll see what happens tomorrow. You know, they had the do or die situation today. Well, now your season could end with a loss tomorrow, and all that's really left for them is Quintana for bulk, and then they're going to go back to the same arms that we've seen in games 1, 2, and 3. So there's not much leeway for the Brewers now. No room for error. They have to win out from here on out. And I just don't see that happening with this group because you mentioned before I hit the live button, they just look defeated out there. And I've heard a lot of other Dodger podcasts. I was listening to Dodger Talk in the morning, and Steve Sachs said the same thing. You know, he's just, you look at the frown faces, the heads down, shrugging the shoulders. This just looks like a team without life. And today, after the loss, I imagine that it's more of the same. It's probably going to be more of the same tomorrow when they see 3-time MVP award winner Shohei Ohtani on the mound, who I imagine is probably going to pitch his best start as a Dodger.
God, there's so much to dissect there, but absolutely at the end of the day, I did hear those same broadcasts and listening and tapping into the Brewers podcasts and their shows, and they are pretty much all but like, yeah, this thing is over. But yeah, definitely let us know in the chat. I see a lot of people just saying hello. I see Juliet Millie. I see Anthony Acosta. Hello, Anthony. He'll be back with us in very soon. Shout out to your family. I know you're hanging out with them tonight. Yeah, Nathaniel Crenshaw, we got it done. If you believe the Dodgers are going to sweep tomorrow, throw some brooms in the chat. Talk to us. We'd love to interact with you. But yes, then I see the golden time. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We're going to talk all about it. We just got to talk about the man of the day. We've been seeing amazing starting pitching this week, and I don't actually think anyone expected, you know, another Snell or Yamamoto performance from Glasnow. He's been amazing lately, but you know, what was left to do? A complete, you know, perfect game. Who knows what he would have done to up what we saw last night from Yamamoto? But I really think he got it done. Maybe he didn't want to come out of the game, but he ended up pitching 5 2/3. Only had 3 hits against him, 1 earned run, 3 walks, and 8 Ks. Would you classify that as a pretty good outing for Glasnow?
For Tyler Glasnow, yeah. I mean, this is a guy that I've mentioned it off air behind the scenes and kind of in my writing as well for today's preview of the game. He is a wild card. As much as I love the guy, you know, with what he's shown in the past, he's also shown the ability to kind of let the moment get a little too big for him where, you know, we saw the start at the beginning of the season in Philadelphia where if things weren't going exactly his way, he can kind of implode on the mound out there. And that was something that a lot of people in the media, you know, had held him accountable for and given him some flack for in the past. And I think entering October, you know, you saw his postseason stats from seasons prior with the Tampa Bay Rays. It wasn't pretty. I mean, he was on that Rays team that the Dodgers ended up winning the World Series over. And then even as a couple starts out after that season with the Rays, you know, starting in elimination games during the wild card, you know, it just didn't work out for Glasnow. But I kind of figured him coming, you know, missing all of last October, he had a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. And so far this postseason, he's been arguably one of their most valuable arms. He came out of the bullpen in game 1 of the division series, starts game 4, the clincher against the Phillies again, and pretty much shuts down their bats in a day game. And his next start here against Milwaukee, I mean, he pretty much matched Mizorowski pitch for pitch. Couldn't get Andrew Vaughn on that final at bat, ends up walking him. And Dave Roberts knows when to pull a guy, and he pulled him right there and went with Alex Vesia. And then we're talking about Tyler Glasnow's perfect start rather than maybe if Roberts leaves him out there for a batter too long and it's a different ball game. So credit to Glasnow. Like you said, what was next for him to top? I mean, honestly, after an 8-inning performance of, you know, pretty much perfect baseball from Snell and then a complete game, one run, you know, outing from Yamamoto. I mean, you would say, yeah, he probably has to throw a no-hitter or a perfect game to kind of one up those guys. And Glasnow probably was their best chance for the Brewers to kind of pull away or sneak away with the win because they've been very mindful of his innings. He's only gone to, I think, the seventh inning once since he was activated off the injured list. He hasn't pitched in the eighth inning since last season, and he's never thrown a complete game in his career. So to get almost 6 full innings out of him is a massive win for the Dodgers. And the way they brought their bullpen in, I felt like they didn't really bring in all the options that they had. They didn't use Sheehan. Robleski's still fresh. Sasaki throws the ninth, so I imagine he's down for tomorrow. Blake Trinan looked good. Alex Vesia with the up and down as well. Dodgers still a lot of cards tomorrow. We'll see how they manage it, but hopefully the offense can get going a little bit more. They're going to be having the whole kitchen sink from the Brewers pitching staff tomorrow. But yeah, when there's pressure on, some pitchers show up and some pitchers, falter. And when you throw another bullpen game, you need every single guy to pretty much be perfect to win. And the Dodgers fortunately got lucky a lot last year. And credit to Andrew Freeman. He didn't want that to happen this year. And you saw guys come back from injury like Glasnow. You saw him sign guys like Blake Snell, and then Yamamoto having a really good second year as a Dodger. Everything kind of went right with the starting rotation now, and Ohtani's back and healthy, and he'll get the game tomorrow. But the rotation I wrote about today has just been on historic levels of dominance, even more dominant than I can remember of watching in my entire life. So it's something special that we can't take for granted.
No, we can. And Mark Pryor also said something similar to what you just mentioned right now, that he has not seen back-to-back starts like that ever, what we just witnessed. And so it's even like kind of putting in awe, like the people that see this day in and day out. This is truly historic and just absolutely amazing to watch. It's exactly what I think they had planned and thought about at the beginning of the season. Get our pitchers to October and get them healthy, whatever we have to do that. And they did. We did survive another a bullpen outing, but I think it's safe to say that branches are growing on our trust tree again for the bullpen.
Yeah, Anthony Banda, that's a guy I like during the regular season. I know he's had his ups and downs, but down the stretch in the second half, he was really good. I was very surprised that he was left off the wild card roster. Ends up getting added for the division series and the championship series. I imagine when the Dodgers advance, he will be on the World Series roster as well. But he was awesome. Alex Vesia has been a dog in the postseason. Blake Trinan honestly has had a really good October, minus that one outing against the Phillies in game 2 of the division series, but has looked pretty good since then. Sasaki, he had a bad outing against the Brewers, allowed 1 run, still got 2 outs. But there was a lot of things I was reading, especially on Reddit. I think a Japanese account brought out the point that he actually may have had a blister on his hand and it was bleeding. Led to a little bit of a dip in velocity. Today, it looked a lot better, 99, 98 miles per hour, but not the 100, 101 that we were seeing at the beginning of the postseason. But that could just be him, being used a little bit more than he had been in the past. So I'm not worried as long as he's throwing strikes. But credit to the Dodgers bullpen. Today, that was, they were nails today. You get Vesia for 2/3 of an inning, Trinan for 2/3 of an inning, Banda for an inning, and Sasaki to close it out. That was supposed to be our weakness entering October. Now the weakness just seems to be our leadoff hitter. And once he starts to get going, the Dodgers from top to bottom, I think Kike Hernandez said it. They're just playing perfect baseball at the right time. And we're seeing it on the field. They're 8-1 this October. And I don't think anybody, even myself, saw that coming.
No, I didn't. And definitely going to talk about Shohei. But I didn't see this coming about a month or so ago. You're like, oh my God, what are we going to even make as far as like our seeding? Are we going to make and look at how it turned out. We're really the hottest team in baseball right now. And it didn't quite look that way every day of the season. But it's just exciting. It's exciting to see it. And we have a comment that I kind of want to transition into in the chat from These Golden Times says, we are really beating the Brewers at their own game. And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to kind of chat about regarding our offense, because we're not seeing they're not living and dying with the slug. Yes, we're seeing home runs. Teo's had home runs in the playoffs so far. The team has had them, but they're really trying to kind of manufacture runs and play a little more small ball. So do you think that that's kind of like the key as well, to really not just always go for the big hit and really kind of get those runs across?
Well, I think for a game like today with the shadows and the way the sun was setting, I don't think swinging for the fences was going to help today. Because you're really much if anyone's ever played before, you can kind of even see it when you're at some of these games where once the ball passes from the sun to the shadows, it pretty much disappears. Now add, 98 miles per hour, 103 miles per hour coming from both starting pitchers today in Mizorowski and Tyler Glasnow. So that made it incredibly probably difficult for these hitters to get anything going, which is why we probably saw, runs, the first 2 runs of the game for both sides scored early, and then the Dodgers got their 2 runs late in the game once the shadows were pretty much a non-factor as it covered the whole field. So I think that was part of the Dodgers plan today. But yeah, I mean, they're playing the Brewers game basically better than the Brewers played all, in this postseason that they did all regular season, because Muncy has a really awesome defensive play in the second inning to save a run there, stopping it with his glove and then throwing to home plate to save a run. And then you're pretty much seeing, some base running aggressiveness, Freddie Freeman going from, I think, first to third on the one hit that gave the Dodgers the lead, and then he ends up scoring on a wild throw from Uribe to first on a potential pickoff. So it's the little things that are starting to add up for the Dodgers. It's very frustrating for a Brewers team that doesn't have slug, that can't compete that way. And now they're kind of getting outside of their comfort zone. That's what we talked about in the post-game and pre-game shows the last couple of days, is I felt once the Dodgers started putting pressure with the lead, you can't just bunt and do infield hits to kind of start having things happen. We saw a little bit when Tyler Glasnow was allowing a few base runners and they were being aggressive on the bases. And then even Glasnow is trying to, get more pickoffs, ends up throwing one to center field. That's the Brewers game. If they get on and they can create havoc on the bases, the way to eliminate that is to just don't allow them on the bases. And that's what the Dodgers pitchers have done very, very well this series.
Yeah, that's what I get afraid of, is like those walks is like the death by 1,000 cuts. Those will get you, because if one thing that the Brewers do when they do it very well is making sure that they're going to get themselves from first to second to third and home. And if we can cut that off and make sure that we don't let them even get on first to begin with, they're going to be so discombobulated they won't know what to do, because that's their game. So I think that is a game plan that is working very well for the Dodgers, and they just need to keep it up one more time, because if we only have to face the Brewers one more time, we are going to have a nice rest to set our rotation for, our next series. But yeah, it's definitely going to be exciting to talk about some of these next players, because it really isn't our highest paid top of our lineup getting it done. I mean, they are doing what they got to do. We saw the Ohtani triple, but would you agree that it's some of the players that are being paid the most money that are really making sure that we are staying on the board and getting these wins?
Yeah, I mean, it's a total team effort. And you look at some of the guys in the bullpen that are pitching in this series, and especially today, like Banda was, given up on by multiple teams before he ends up falling to the Dodgers. He's still on, his arbitration phase. Sasaki, I mean, they got him an international signing, so anybody could have signed him. He just ended up wanting to go to Los Angeles at the end of the day. Vesia is another one of those guys. He's still in his arbitration years. So the Dodgers got him from the Marlins for basically nothing. Nobody really even remembers that trade, but they see Vesia and they're like, man, that's a dog. How is he on this team as well? And then through the lineup, like Andy Baez had a hit today. Kike Hernandez is a guy that has shown up time and time again in October. Anybody was free to sign him. Tommy Edman, he gets traded to the Dodgers for basically nothing. I mean, I don't even think anybody really remembers what the Dodgers gave up, because it was just, Miguel Vargas and a couple other throw-in prospects that haven't really impacted those teams yet. Other than that, Will Smith, another one, he's a homegrown talent. This is an organizational win. Yes, they spend money. Yes, they bring in high level talent, but they also supplement that talent with depth. And those depth guys are guys that they've drafted, taken chances on, minor league free agents, all that. I mean, we mentioned it the other day where the Dodgers' all-time home run postseason leader is Max Muncy, who's a guy that they signed to a minor league deal in 2018. And now look where we are almost 10 years later. And he's one of the Dodger legends in October that a lot of fans like us will remember for years into the future because of this era of Dodgers baseball that we have. So, yeah, I think it's a very cheap narrative to push. We're going to see it push, especially if the Dodgers sweep tomorrow. We're going to see all types of narratives that are pushed. There's an imbalance in the league. The Dodgers are spending too much money. We can't compete with it. But at the end of the day, they spend money, they invest in their team, and that's what you should want from your organization. So we are fortunate to have the lucky side of it, where a lot of these other teams around the league, they're frustrated, but for the wrong reasons.
And that's what I've been reading back and forth for the last several days, because coming into this series, a lot of the fans of the Milwaukee Brewers, who are an incredible team, but they were, chest thumping about, 6-0. We're going to come through this series, going to be an incredible series. We're going to come out on top and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, within a day or two, it's like, well, how are we supposed to compete with all that money? And I would argue that there's way more to it than money. There's management behind this. You're talking about a farm system that's completely, it's just run in a very smart way. There is smart scouting, smart international signings, and drafting and player development, and all the things that go into running this organization that is so much bigger than money. Money is just kind of like the lazy narrative. And we're going to keep seeing it. We're used to it as an organization, but it's kind of annoying seeing that it's so much more than that. I mean, anyone can afford Kike Hernandez. Can't tell me that's breaking the bank for anybody. And at the end of the day, all these owners are billionaires. Yes, they can afford it. And that's just kind of like turning the attention to the Dodgers, because they know that they don't want it on them. So, but enough of that. I want to talk a little bit about the Brewers. I mean, they have some amazing players. I was a little bit worried about Mizorowski today, but I mean, he did incredible. He had, I guess, he had 9 Ks. I'm not sure if that was a record for him and his for a rookie record for postseason, but he retired 10 batters in a row at one point, or even more than that, for the Dodgers. He was scaring me a little bit. I'm thinking, oh my God, he might be the reason that they come through and actually win the game, because he's holding us off. But just his talent level, they're lucky to have him. Do you think that we're going to keep seeing him be a threat in the coming years for the Brewers?
Well, we're definitely going to see him in the coming years. For the rest of the series, he's done. I mean, he went 5 innings today, allowed 3 hits, the 2 runs. He did get 9 strikeouts. I think that was the most by a rookie's Brewers pitcher in a postseason. So he had the Dodger hitters off balance and just kind of overmatched them with his fastball today. And it was very similar to what he did against the Dodgers in the regular season, where after the Ohtani, leadoff home run in Milwaukee back in July, he ended up settling in and I think tossing like 6 innings for the rest of the day, and the Dodgers didn't get much going. And today was very reminiscent of that. The Dodgers jump out to an early 1-0 lead. Brewers end up tying it, and it's kind of just a back and forth match between him and Glass now. But I kept, beating a dead horse with this. Is now that the Brewers are down 3-0, you already used Mizorowski, who was your best guy. He went 5 innings today. He's not available tomorrow. And even if the Brewers win, he probably won't be available for game 5 on Saturday either. So that's your biggest weapon from the bullpen. And now he's just done. You have to use the guys that we've already been seeing. So that's going to be difficult for the Brewers to kind of overcome there. Where very similar with the Dodgers, they used Sasaki during game 4 of the DS for three innings. And he probably wouldn't have been available for a game 5 in Philadelphia, but Dave Roberts took that risk. Pat Murphy took that risk today because they needed to win this game. And now that they didn't and he's unavailable, I mean, that's just another advantage of the Dodgers right now. But another guy that had a really good game for the Brewers was their third baseman, Durbin. Dude's got the speed, had a couple extra base hits today. You don't know, a lot of the fans don't know these names now, but you'll probably know them now that they've been on the center stage of the postseason. Going into next season, you're definitely going to put more respect on the Brewers name. But other than that, they just haven't been doing anything in this series. And even against the Cubs, they struggled on offense a lot as well. And they didn't have power. They didn't really play Brewers baseball until that final game in game 5. And we just haven't seen it at all this series. And that's why we're seeing such a lopsided kind of affair between both these teams. I'm not going to say it's because of the payroll. I know that's what everybody's going to write about. I just think they're catching a Dodgers team at the absolute worst time, where even when a lot of their players aren't clicking, they just are good enough with talent and experience to just continuously, take advantage of these other teams.
I actually like them. I think they're a definite worthy opponent. And I think that we've been here so many times that we know that regular season and postseason are so different. Nothing is going to dictate if you are winning in the regular, that it means you're going to win in post. And I think that's why a lot of Dodger fans were hesitant to just call this, because it doesn't matter either way, who was higher, who was lower. It all resets during playoffs. And I was thinking about they just have to, just do small tweaks here and there. They're getting a lot of postseason experience. They're a team that I think we're going to see in the future if they can just kind of like make those moves, and they're going to be just fine. It has nothing to do with payroll. They're a fantastic team. This series might be over, but I'm definitely thinking, we'll see some really good Brewers baseball in the future again. And, they're interesting to watch. In the regular season, they were fantastic. They may not have been able to translate that to the postseason, but that's okay. They're still a fantastic team. One player that I wanted to talk about that we may not see for the next game, and I really do like him, Jackson Churio. He's fantastic. But he was seen leaving the game with, it looks like he re-aggravated a hamstring injury that he had earlier in the NLDS. And I never wish injury on any player. I don't care what team it is, rival team or not. You don't want to see that. But how big of a blow is it to the Brewers to not have him for the next game?
Yeah, Churio is their best offensive player. He's their best player, period. He plays amazing defense. He leads off the games for them. He's got the best bat. One of the very bright young players that's in our game today. I don't even think he's like 24 yet. I think he's one of the youngest players in baseball, and he is the Brewers' best hitter. To lose him for probably tomorrow and the rest of this series, no matter how far it goes, is a big blow, because not only just statistically because of what he brings, but just morally and in that clubhouse to say, all right, we're down 3 on the series, and now Churio, like our table setter at the top of the lineup, he's done. There's just a lot of things that happened in today's game specifically that just made the situation for the Brewers worse. Going down in the series as far as they are, that's not good. Losing Churio, that's not good. Having the Miz pitch multiple innings and being down for probably the rest of this weekend, that's not good either. So there's a lot of things that are stacking against the Brewers right now, and that's just why I'm talking so confidently about the direction of this series. I do expect it to end tomorrow, and I just feel like the series ended when Churio left the game with his injury, because then it was pretty much, you got, if you remove him from the roster, who you're replacing him with. I mean, you already had all your best guys on the team right now. No one's going to replace his level of production. And you look at the team, the only guy that has a higher OPS than him is their number 7th hitter, and Jake Bauers. He's got a 1.144 OPS this October, but limited playing time, where Churio had an 842. We saw him clip Yamamoto in game 2 for a home run. To not have him on offense or defense, that's going to hurt the Brewers' chances of even winning a single game in this series.
I mean, if you had told me you were going to say that like 3 days ago, that they weren't going to win a single game, it's so surprising. But you can kind of see, kind of like watching the progression of this, how it's added up. I mean, does this kind of make you think like it really was the NLDS again, second year in a row, that was our biggest challenge?
I don't really know, just because I don't think the Phillies were good either in this postseason, where last year I was, when I'm trying to pass some time, I bring up some highlights from last October, or, like any series that I thought was fun to watch. But that Padres Dodgers NLDS, both teams were hitting. They had key pitching performances, gutsy, defensive plays. I didn't get that from the Phillies. I just felt like the Phillies just kind of gave it to the Dodgers. They said, you know what, our hitters aren't going to hit at all. If you guys pitch well and have situational hitting and get some clutch runs, you're going to win this series handily. It only went 4 games too, and it felt like the Dodgers didn't do much that series, and they still ended up winning. Where last year in the division series, I was like, man, they earned this. They earned this win. They outlasted the Padres. They went to Petco Park, took the last game there and got it back to a game 5. Like we're looking really good. Where this Phillies NLDS, as good as they just were super cold. Harper, Schwarber, Turner, their pitching was the only thing that kept them in the game. And once you got their starters out, their bullpen was very, very much human. And even this series right now, it's like, man, is this the best the National League kind of has to offer? I feel like maybe a 7-game series with the Phillies would have been a little bit better, but I guess that's why we're starting to see the narrative like, oh, are the Dodgers bad for baseball? I just feel like the only team that's going to allow the Dodgers to lose or do anything, it's going to be themselves. I feel like if they start making mistakes and playing the mental game, they're their own worst enemy. And right now they're just so locked in. I just don't see any team really standing a chance. And I know that sounds very homerish from the fan perspective, but I would say if you look at the American League, like kind of fast forward to the World Series, the only team that really scares me is the Mariners. and it's because of their rotation. The Blue Jays, their starters and their pitching staff is in the same situation that the Brewers in. The only difference is they can slug. They have multiple hitters on their team that can hit, and they've proven it today. They're leading their game 3-1, so they may be forcing this series going back to Toronto. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't really feel like I feel like the Reds put up more of a fight than both these teams that we've played right now, and it's kind of weird because they've scored the most in their 2 games against us.
Yeah, that's what Anthony said. It was like, that's the little engine that could. And I think that that's true. But in the sense that I heard like kind of the comparison between the two NLDSs, even though, yes, you are absolutely right. The Padres series was far more intense. My heart wouldn't stop beating out of my chest that entire 5-game series. But yeah, whoever came out of the NLDS, I think it was like, that's probably the team that's going to end up going to the World Series, if not winning the World Series. And between us and the Phillies, I mean, the Phillies had made it through. I don't know, maybe Schwarber, Harper and Turner's bats would have woken up in this series, but I almost feel like it is a little more of a cakewalk to the end now that we've seen how the Brewers ended up playing. But we'll see how this goes. It's not over yet. How many more wins would we have? Like 5 more wins? Incredible. But I want to talk a little bit about Ohtani because he did something a little uncharacteristic yesterday. When producer Roger kind of let us in on the thing before we saw it in the mass media, that he is not the kind of person that does batting practice the way that all the other team does. And he kind of changed his routine a little bit and came out there to try to, I guess, quote unquote, get himself right for this game. And I guess he hit something nearly out of the park or over the pavilion roof or something along those lines, which was just like, okay, this shows some really great signs. But I really feel like the teams are just going all out to neutralize him. They're going to walk him. They're going to figure out how to put their lefties out there to take him down. And he just seems like, aside from that triple, the slump continues. What can Ohtani do, or what do you think, in your opinion, can be done to like kind of switch that gear up for the next series?
Well, I think what can be done is he pitches a gem tomorrow and they get a week off to prepare for the World Series. I think that's really the only thing I can think of. I think statistically, from a hitting perspective, him hitting like the stat line looking sexy is pretty much gone for like the NL side of the postseason. So now you should start preparing, wrapping this series up, and then preparing for the World Series, whether you're facing the Blue Jays or Mariners. I don't think it will really matter for Ohtani. But yeah, when you start changing up your routines, that just knows in the back of his head, he's thinking about it. He knows he's in a slump and he's trying to change some things. And he is a guy that doesn't take batting practice on the field. He's usually a guy that stays in the tunnel behind the scenes, does his tee work. That was the other thing. I remember when he first signed with the Dodgers, they were like, yeah, he doesn't hit off a pitching machine. Like he only does, soft toss, over the hand toss, or he works off a tee. And usually before games, he just does the tee exclusively. Doesn't even get overhand or underhand tosses. So that's just the craziness of him, for him swinging and hitting as many home runs as he does, where he just does all the little things with just a tee in the behind the scenes. But him taking batting practice, trying to get more of a feel for where his swing's at and where the power is. Don't know how much that's going to tell him, but hopefully he was trying to say, all right, maybe I'll get a spark. Even his triple today, I mean, it was kind of like an excuse me swing, just threw his bat out there, ended up dribbling down the line. And with his speed, we know it. He ends up turning second and going to 3. Scores on the play thanks to a Betts double, so credit to him there. But the rest of his at-bats for the rest of the game were not very pretty. He kind of went back into his trends that we've seen this postseason, which is flailing at pitches down and outside in the zone, swinging at balls hammered inside, and then, a couple good sinkers and changeups down out of the zone as well that kind of got him to swing out of his shoes on. So I think he just needs a mental reset from like just hitting. And tomorrow he gets to focus exclusively on pitching for the most part. I think the Dodgers want a good solid 5 to 6 innings from him on the mound. They don't really care what he does at the plate. I feel like the offense can take care of that by themselves, especially the opportunity they've given themselves right now, which is being up so much in the series where you're not the one that's going to be forced to make mistakes or do anything like that, or keep that in the back of your mind. So we'll see what happens with Ohtani. He is losing a lot of that postseason credibility that he built last year before the Fall Classic when he injured his shoulder. But I imagine he will get going at some point. But tomorrow, just focus on the mound, buddy. I want a good start. I want your best start. Like I said, I'm hoping for a 7-inning performance, shutout, something crazy that makes us believe in Ohtani again.
I mean, well, shutting it out means that he wouldn't have to hit or do anything, strenuous the next day. So why not just like lay it all out on the field and then we have plenty of time to reset. But in his presser, just to kind of piggyback this and then put a bow on it, he said that it was because someone asked him, could it be that, the two-way status, the two-way player that he is kind of could that have affected his bat in any way? And he insisted that that wasn't true. But then it makes me wonder, is that there's just like has to be a level of exhaustion at this point in the series. I mean, everyone's banged up, beaten up, they've traveled all season. He has to just be feeling it. Could that be, maybe he doesn't think it is, but could he just be, he's not old, but he's getting older. Every year makes a difference.
Yeah, I'm willing to say it's probably something that contributes to it. I think if there's anyone that can continue being a two-way player at the ability that he is, it's only him. We call him the unicorn for a reason. From everything we read and what we've seen from behind the scenes of people covering the team on the daily, he works harder than anybody. His off-season stuff is crazy to get his body ready. And you look at the progression this year, especially, he rehabbed from a shoulder surgery and he was continuing his rehab to become a pitcher again. And, they slowly build him up and they don't push him too hard in the regular season because they want him for games in October like he's going to get tomorrow. And there is fatigue at the end of the season. Any baseball player will tell you that when you play 100, 150 plus games a year, and then you add on October with that, which is something that's foreign to Ohtani. He didn't play in October baseball in his time with the Angels, gets the opportunity last year with the Dodgers. They end up winning the World Series, and he plays the longest he's ever done in the major leagues. From pretty much February all the way to November, he played baseball. So that's probably something that's in the back of his head. He'll never admit to it, though. No player will. They're never going to make that excuse. I personally just think he's pressing too much as a hitter just because he knows he's in a slump. And once you know you're in a slump, you really just need to start seeing results until things change. Because when he pitched in Philly in game one, he looked fine as a pitcher. He was hitting 101, 100 miles per hour, throwing the splitter. He gave up those 3 runs, but he settled in pretty nicely after that. And the bat has just been the one issue. So normal players couldn't do what he does, but Ohtani can. I'm still under the assumption that as long as he's a two-way player for the next couple of seasons, like you mentioned, he's not getting any younger. He can't do it forever. We'll see what happens, but I do have the faith that he'll rebound. Maybe tomorrow he hits a bomb and he pitches a gem.
That's what he's saving it for when I'm there. So I'll just believe that and I'll see that and I'll video that and send it to you guys. But yeah, I want to talk about Mookie for a second because, he doesn't have the offensive explosion every single day. He does, he had a really great second half to the season after things got a little bit right again after that JD Martinez visit or whatever it is that JD Martinez hypnotized or told him or who knows what. But Mookie had a pretty good end. And today, I think it was in the 9th inning, I heard the announcers say that he caught that like really cool jump throw he did to make sure he got that first out in the 9th. And they said he changed the complexion of that inning. So it's those defensive shortstop plays that have really just been so natural for him. And I believe that he was nominated for a Gold Glove. We learned that this week as well. And just kind of want to talk because he kind of shut down that narrative that everyone's like, he needs to go back to right. Will we be seeing Mookie at short for the years to come based on what we saw this year?
Well, I think definitely this year he proved everybody wrong. And I even just kind of, for the bold prediction article I wrote at the beginning of the season, I kind of just threw it in there to just be like, let's look back on this and say, I told you so. But even if you asked me my real thoughts, if I thought he could have been nominated for a Gold Glove, I would have told you probably not. I mean, he's in his 30s. He's moving from right field to shortstop. He didn't look really good at the position last year, but to his credit, you give him a whole offseason to work on it. A lot of people behind the scenes, they said, hey, man, like if he has something that he's focused on and he trains for it, he's going to be good at it. And he ended up being great at shortstop this year. He led all of defensive runs saved at the position. The ounce above average was around middle of the pack, but errors were down. He looked way more confident as the season went on. I think now we don't even notice it anymore from the plays that he's made. I think today's game specifically in this postseason run, we haven't seen any bad throws. We haven't seen any bad, footsteps or backhand, front hands, catching balls, on the fly in the outfield, kind of taking charge as being the commander of the infield, calling the wheel play in Philly. We're seeing him kind of just putting it all together and proving all the doubters wrong. And, they were asking him, I believe, before, the game today and during the practice yesterday, where like, how do you feel like now you're nominated for a Gold Glove? And he was like, I really don't care, but I know back of his head, he cares about, potentially winning a Gold Glove, his 7th of his career at a completely different position. As far as the future, I imagine because of how good he looked there this year and with no clear direction for shortstop next year, he'll probably get a crack at it again. After that, you may see the Dodgers maybe go out in free agency and try to get a shortstop, a trade, or maybe one of these young guys in the organization, like an Alex Freeland, can work things out with the offense, and he takes the reins over there from Mookie Betts, and he eventually goes back to second base, where I imagine he'll end his career. But for right now, I mean, dude looks great. That jump throw today, kind of just cherry on top of his whole season. I mean, he knew who was there. He knew it was Vaughn, I believe, that was running. Doesn't have the speed. He said, let me field it, get the backhand, collect myself, and then just give like a hop throw. And awesome play. Probably the best play he's made this season, and he's made a lot of them.
I just love watching him play. Whatever Mookie is out there doing, I've always just in awe of him. I mean, I just can't believe how lucky we are to see this golden age. And it's not one guy doing one thing amazing, it's another. I mean, even Max Muncy was doing that little pirouette, throw out in the second, and his defense is just wow as well. So, I mean, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but assuming that the series does end tomorrow, there will be an NLCS MVP. I know we probably called our shots earlier, but if it were to be like right now, who would get it? Who would be the NLCS MVP? I couldn't think of, a definitive answer.
I don't know. It's like, can you give the starting pitching staff just a collective co-MVP award? I mean, I feel like if the series ends in a sweep, I mean, you look at the first 2 games of the series and like how they each sit it down. Hell, give Blake Snell and Yamamoto co-MVPs of the series. We haven't really gotten like a fantastic offensive performance from anybody. It's kind of been a collective effort. Get on base, hit there. Someone else takes up the spot the next game. I think it has to be one of those guys. I would probably say it's Snell, especially if by chance maybe he comes in from the bullpen tomorrow if they want to close it out. He would be available. He's going to start on Saturday. So, why the hell not? Just throw him out there if you think the game's going to end. And then you really can say, yep, he's the MVP of this series. But maybe Tommy Edman again. I mean, Edman's hit really good this series. He's been pretty well, looks locked in there in the play, except for his first at bat against Mizorowski, where he swung at a curveball out of his shoes. But other than that, I just feel like it has to go to someone on the pitching staff. And I would say that's probably Blake Snell or Yamamoto, but we'll see what happens. If Snell comes in tomorrow, though, it would be him.
I would love to see that. And I think that would mean so much to him because he was not with us last year. And he wanted to come to the Dodgers because he said, I think the quote is he was hungry for this. He wants to hold up a World Series trophy and he is fighting for it. My man has binders studying and doing everything in his power to make sure that he gets us to the finish line. So I think that would be a really cool cherry on top for him this series. Again, we have to go through one more game at least and see what happens. But yeah, so what can we expect to see tomorrow? We've got Ohtani on the mound. And then we don't know who's going to follow, but what do you think is the most likely? Let's say Ohtani does 6 innings. Who do you think we'll see?
Well, so if Ohtani gives them 6 innings, if they have a lead, I imagine they're going to go with Sheehan. He didn't pitch today. Depending on how big the lead is, Robleski could be an option as well. Blake Trinan and Alex Vesia, I think they're going to be available too, especially if the Dodgers are in position to, win the game and secure the sweep. Maybe Sasaki, but they've been very reluctant, especially to use him in back-to-back days or even 2 out of 3 days. So I'm going to assume he's done. I threw out the Snell idea, and I'm starting to talk myself into that, especially if they need there's a string of lefties up, or maybe they just want them to close the game, get the last 2 innings. I mean, if you're up and you don't have the planning of playing tomorrow or on Saturday, why not just do it and give yourself the best chance and say, you know what, we don't even want to use the bullpen again. We're going to go starter to starter and we're going to close this bad boy out. So I would look out for him to come out of the bullpen. I just feel like the other guys like Kershaw, all them, I don't think they're going to be used unless it's for a loss, unfortunately. So I feel like most of the high leverage guys will be available. And Dave Roberts, we've seen before, last year in the World Series, I remember in game 5, they were talking about, like, we got to start planning, like, who's going to start, who's going to fly back. Like, they were talking about Yamamoto flying back early to go back to Los Angeles and prepare for game 6. Roberts had all that in the back of his head, and he was running out of bullpen arms. So he went to Walker Buehler, a starting pitcher, and said, hey, close this out for me. I could see him doing the same thing with one of the starters tomorrow, like Blake Snell. So we'll see what happens. You'll be there.
So excited. I am so excited. I mean, half of me is thinking all these crazy scenarios that I think I saw right before the playoffs started. Like, people were saying, is this even legal? Let's say Ohtani pitches a game, and then in order for them to bring him back out in relief, he has to switch to a position player, go out in the outfield for a little while. Then and all these weird scenarios where Ohtani would play like multiple positions in one game, and people were getting all up in arms about if that would even happen. But in my mind, I'm thinking, hey, it's Ohtani, let him do it. Let's have the highlight reel. But I actually would love to see Snell close it out. If it looks like it's going to happen at the end, hey, I would be on cloud 9, and yes, watch him hold that NLCS MVP. But yeah, let's call it, because I won't have a chance to talk to you tomorrow to call the prediction. What's the final score going to be? Because we are going to sweep tomorrow, and what's it going to be? How much are we going to win?
I feel like the offense is due for an explosion.
Yes.
I think Quintana going to get the bulk. The Dodgers have had their fair share of success against him in the past. They've seen everybody in the Brewers bullpen. They're facing a team that is probably defeated inside their heads, inside the clubhouse. I would like to see an offensive explosion to kind of just put this to bed early, let Ohtani settle in, and then you can go to like someone like Clayton Kershaw to get the last like 2 innings of the game and close it out. That would be like another send off to him at Dodger Stadium as well. So that's what I'm hoping tomorrow. I'll say 6-1.
I'll take that. It's going to be an offensive explosion, and I'm going to just go with, it's going to be 8-2, 8-2, and it's going to be an amazing game all the way through. And we're going to see something really cool happen at the end, and I'm going to be so happy. So that's tomorrow, and there will be there some kind of post game show again. So I'll definitely be tuning in from my phone and keeping you guys up to date from my end. But yeah, final words, Cody, before we close it up.
Yeah, nothing. We're just 1 win away from going back to the World Series. It's kind of unreal. I just remember kind of watching all the other postseason series, like growing up, and there was so much failure at the end of October where the Dodgers were kind of just the laughing stock around the league, whether it was blowing series against the Cardinals in 13 and 14, then losing to the Mets in 15, not being able to overcome the Cubs in 16, and then losing back-to-back World Series. I mean, that was just a gut punch. And especially, when a couple years later it comes out that the Astros were, ended up cheating in that World Series with the sign stealing, scandal. They're about to clinch their 5th pennant in the last 9 years. And if they ended up getting the opportunity to win it, that would be their 3rd World Series in 6 years. That's a dynasty in the making, and it's kind of crazy to live through. I mean, not many teams get the chance to do that. Not many teams get the chance to repeat as champions. And the Dodgers, if they win tomorrow, they'll be the first World Series winner from the previous season to get back to the World Series since 2008 and 9 when the Phillies did it. So they have a chance to make their mark in not just Dodger history, but Major League history as well. So I'm excited for tomorrow. I'm going to be kind of looking at the clock all day, getting ready for the game to start, just because I'm ready to celebrate. I'm ready to kind of like have the monkey off the bat. I always say just get to the World Series, and then, whatever happens, happens. If you lose the World Series, you'll lose the World Series. But just getting there, I just feel like takes a lot of pressure off of me watching these games.
I really do have a lot of faith in Dave Roberts in 7-game series. I feel like he has had so much experience and knows exactly the right buttons to push at the right times, and give him a lot of credit for being the manager for this time when we're just like all getting to enjoy, because it hasn't been easy. Like you said I'm in my late 40s, and I don't know how many decades without a championship. I mean, I was 10 when, I watched, the Kurt Gibson and Oral Hershiser, and series, and we win, and that we don't win for a long time. And you just can't take for granted championships. I mean, people say the Dodgers are so lucky, but we've been through a lot, and there was decades of things that were just so difficult. So I'm not going to apologize for enjoying something like this now. We're not always going to be on top. And so this is super fun and super exciting because the fans are very loyal. And I think that the Dodgers know it. And I think that's what Andrew Friedman and Brandon Gomes, they always say it. The fans really show up for us. So now they're showing up for us like we're showing up for them. So just an exciting time. But yeah, tell everyone where you can find your articles because they keep me informed while my lunch breaks. And I love reading your stuff. So tell everyone where they can find your work.
Yeah, DodgersBeat.com. That's where me and Steve Webb are typing away pregame, postgame interviews, analysis articles. We'll be previewing tomorrow's game as well and getting ready for all the storylines we had from today and kind of getting ready for the World Series, which I think is probably a for certainty of happening. I won't jinx it like that, but I think we're all under the assumption that the Dodgers can get a win over the next couple of games. So I'm confident there. And then Talking Blue, that's where you can that's my Substack with all my work as well. And social media, I'm always there to have a conversation on Twitter for any under my posts and stuff like that. So definitely look forward to all the conversations we're all going to have over the next probably all the way until the end of November when teams probably celebrating.
I'm so excited to continue our pre and post game. And this is going to be just a fabulous upcoming week. But yeah, I want to give a shout out to everyone in the chat. It's been very active. We see a lot of brooms and a lot of faith in our Dodgers. Viva Cristo Rey. We see Anthony Arroyo. Our Anthony from the show, he's been kind of popping in and out of the chat too that I've noticed. And so we'll be catching up with him very soon. But yeah, thank you all of us. Make sure if you haven't already, like and subscribe, hit the bell notification so you can keep up to date with the Bleed Lows Podcast Network. And of course, DodgersBeat.com, where you can catch everything that producer Roger is making sure that we have from behind the scenes as well. Make sure to catch myself and Cody at our handles. You can find me, Drea, at Ravine Queen 1958, and you can find Cody on X at Snavely Cody 6. And until tomorrow, let's go Dodgers.
Yeah, let's go Dodgers. Have fun at the game tomorrow.
Thank you.
See ya.